And welcome everybody to this podcast today. We are going to talk about something a little bit different. We are going to talk about Chris Sims and his button-up shirt. No, we're not going to talk about his button-up shirts. I'm wearing a all-the-way shirt buttoned all the way up in honor of Chris Sims today. But now we're going to talk about his top 40 quarterbacks. I know it's not quite Washington Commanders, but in a way it kind of is. Just stick with us here. And welcome back to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs channel. I am Greg Sykes, your host, along with Brandon Scott, our co-host here. And this channel, of course, is dedicated to news and commentary for the Washington Commanders. If you're down with that, please make sure that you have subscribed to this channel. And also, when you do, make sure you hit that notification bell so you won't miss any other video releases. So, a lot, of course, well, there's not really a lot going on. There's minicamp right now. We will try to put out a video kind of recapping minicamp. It's supposed to be 3 days. I doubt, Brandon, that they're going to go all 3 days. Usually, they let them off the last day. But we'll try to give you kind of a recap on what went on in training camp right now from some of the video clips I've seen. Man, Jaden Daniels, he is very sharp with throwing that football right there. I mean, he is deadly accurate there in the holes. Yeah, right. So they have these. If you don't know what I'm talking about, they have these nets where it has these holes. It's almost like little buckets, right? That they try to throw the football in. And Jaden Daniels, now keep in mind, we haven't actually stood out there on the sidelines and watched every single throw that Jaden Daniels has done, but it's like every single time we've watched a video of him do these drills, he has thrown it perfectly in the bucket every single time. So, I mean, he looks like he's been pretty sharp so far in OTAs. But so speaking of quarterbacks, Brandon, former quarterback Chris Sims, of course, some of us old heads would probably remember his dad a little bit more, Phil Sims, who played for the New York Giants back in the 80s. But Chris Sims is breaking down his top 40 quarterback countdown for 2024. Brandon, some of these kind of surprised me. Some maybe not, but some, I mean, just, I mean, we're just going to have to show this because it's just really like some of them are head scratcher, man. It just, I mean, I'll let you roll with this because you showed this to me, and of course, yeah, Patrick Mahomes number 1, that's a given. Josh Allen number 2. I could probably see Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. After those 4, you can kind of start making some arguments for the order of Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert. You talked about. You can kind of see him falling out of the top 5 because he hasn't quite led his team to the playoffs yet, right? I mean, he hasn't really done a lot for his team, but it's not necessarily all on Justin Herbert, but he's yet to really take his team deep in the playoffs. So we can see why he may not be a top 6. But Brandon, what about the rest of this? I mean, if you look at the top 10, what do you see in the top 10 so far that stands out to you that says, this is wrong?
Oh man, easy. I mean, looking at obviously number 1, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, what other direction could you really go with just with his resume? With him being still so young in his career, man, what he's accomplished. So he's an obvious number 1. But I would actually slide Lamar Jackson to number 2 because I mean
Okay.
MVPs. I mean, his ability, what he's done in the league, man, I think he's definitely the second best quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. That's because he's that dual threat. I would put Josh Allen number three. I would put Joe Burrow number four. Matthew Stafford is interesting because I could definitely see him in number five, but Justin Herbert to me, at six, I don't have a problem because he hasn't. You see potential with him, but he hasn't solidified himself as that franchise quarterback. He still has a lot, some ways to go to really be that guy in the league. But I think he's going to get there. I mean, obviously the Chargers are going through a transitional period, man. His wide receiver core is not the sexiest, so he's definitely going to have some growing pains. But I think he'll be all right. Looking rounding out the top 10, CJ Stroud. Even though I really love his rookie year, seven's a little high in my opinion. Dak Prescott. I don't necessarily have a problem with him in the top 10, but obviously we know his struggles in the playoffs. Obviously he's a regular season quarterback. Once he gets to the playoffs, he forgets how to do his job. Jalen Hurts, I have no problem with number 9. You can argue he could probably be above CJ Stroud, in my opinion. Jared Goff, again, I think he needs maybe a little higher because, again, he led the Detroit Lions to the NFC Championship game. So he is a guy that I think is very slept on because, he's really solidifying himself as that guy in Detroit. So looking at the top 10, like I said, to me, Lamar is number 2 just because his resume. I mean, how many MVPs does he have? He's really revolutionized the quarterback position to a certain degree. He's found his perfect spot in Baltimore. Mahomes is an obvious number 1. Joe Burrow to me would be 4, Josh Allen 3, 5, Stafford. I would stay with Justin Herbert. No, actually, I would actually drop Herbert. I would put Jalen Hurts at 6, Jared Goff at 7, Dak Prescott at 8, Justin Herbert at 9, and probably CJ Stroud at 10 just for right now, even though I think he could possibly fall out of the top 10 because, again, he's going to his second year, and you're wondering, does he have that sophomore slump? So, 1 year, and I know we're going to talk about 15 to 20 because there's a couple guys that I want to move, but I would move CJ. And like I said, I like CJ, especially long term. But top 10 quarterback right now, I think it's a little much. I think it's a little too high.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see what CJ does in his sophomore year with the NFL because he had an outstanding rookie season with the Houston Texans. He had some outstanding weapons to throw to as well. But if everything keeps going upward for the Houston Texans, I could definitely see CJ moving upward into the top 5. I mean, he's an outstanding quarterback in my opinion. But again, you know, we've seen some quarterbacks that come out and have spectacular first years and then kind of slump in the second year. So, let's. It's always kind of like you did great that first year. Let's see if the second year proves that that first year was just not a fluke, right? Although I don't think he's a fluke. I think he's the real deal. But it's very hard to really continue that upward trajectory because teams find out your weaknesses. They really get to see you a lot of your play on tape, and so they start to pinpoint your play a little bit better. So let's see if he continues to move up. So that's your top 10. We get to the top 11, or I'm sorry, the top. Well, the top 11. We start to go from 11 to 20. I tell you, Trevor Lawrence. I don't agree with him at 11 at all. Kirk Cousins. You know, I've always felt Kirk Cousins was at least a top 10 quarterback. Honestly, just because. I mean, he's before his injury. I mean, he's always played pretty well. He's never really been the guy to ever really get his teams deep into the playoffs. That's always been the knock on Kirk Cousins. So I don't know. I think that's probably okay with him being at number 12. I don't know Jordan Love before Aaron Rodgers. Now, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I realize that people are trying their best to anoint Jordan Love as being the next great Packers quarterback after Brett Favre and after Aaron Rodgers and and so forth. But I don't think we've seen enough of Jordan Love to say that he's necessarily better than Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron can still play. I don't know. I think Aaron Rodgers is still in the top 10, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
But he is what, almost 40 years old, going to be
yeah,
40 this year. So I mean, you got to cut him some slack there. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. I don't necessarily agree with them being in front of Brock Purdy. Maybe with the athletic abilities, maybe, I don't know. I thought Brock Purdy had an outstanding year this past year,
yeah, yeah.
and taking his team deep into the playoffs, right? So I don't I don't necessarily agree with Baker Mayfield being that high at number 15, especially when you look at some of these other guys. Tua at 18.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm, Geno Smith, I think, is going to drop. I just think that Geno Smith, I don't know. I think he's going to have issues at quarterback this year. I think there's a reason why that they had some interest in Sam Howell. No, I'm not a howler. I'm just I'm just saying that I just don't know. I think Geno Smith. I'm not sure if he's still a top 20 quarterback, maybe. But this last one, of course, I don't agree with whatsoever. Caleb Williams.
Oh
He's
man,
had 0 snaps in the NFL. But, I'm going to go ahead and give you that, right? Because I'm going to argue. Of course, you know what I'm going to argue about later on when we get to lower on in this. But Caleb Williams at number 20,
yeah.
with all the reports of him being kind of not that great in OTAs, don't know how he gets to that point. But really all depends on what he does when the season starts. When the season starts, then you may see a top five quarterback. We don't know. May see a bottom five quarterback. We don't know. But so Brandon, out of any of these, who are the ones that stands out there? Like, there's no way that this person deserves to be in the top 20.
Oh man, and before I even get into it, man, I agree with you. I think the way you're looking at this is that, with some of these guys, you're looking at the individual quarterback here, not the system, not the wide receiver core, them as a quarterback. And I'm with you, Jordan Love. Now, I do think Jordan Love has took a lot of steps and bounds as far as his developing into now the starting quarterback for Green Bay. But I mean, one year, you got him ranked above Aaron Rodgers, who, like you said, you could probably put in at number 10. Because I think that Aaron Rodgers is definitely in front of Trevor Lawrence. I think he's in front of Kirk Cousins. Let's see. Kyler Murray and Baker. I would have Kyler Murray in front of Baker Mayfield. I like Baker Mayfield, but again, Cleveland, I'm not gonna put all that on him. And then he playing in Carolina, I'm not gonna put that on him. And I believe he was also with the Rams, right? So he's kind of been a journeyman, and he found a spot in Tampa, man. But I don't going off and just him as a quarterback. I don't know if I'd have him in front of Brock Purdy. I wouldn't have him in front of Kyler Murray. Tua at 18, I think I would have Tua in front of Jordan Love, in front of Baker Mayfield, but I would not have him in front of Brock Purdy or Kyler Murray because we're looking at him as a quarterback, and I think his safety valve is his receiving core. Nothing against Tua. I think he's a really good quarterback, but I think individually he still has ways to go. I think like again, with his running back room and his wide receiver core, they kind of his safety valve to a certain degree. Geno, I mean, look, man, he's WVU quarterback, man, so I can't be too, you can't go wrong with a Mountaineer quarterback. But Geno, yeah, there's a reason why they traded for Sam Howell. I mean, he's kind of in the middle of his career right now. Is he the long-term answer in Seattle? I think he's got to solidify this season, man, because if he doesn't have a standout performance as far as being that guy at quarterback, you very well could see Sam Howell, or you could see them going into the draft, because next year's draft is, you still got 4 or 5 guys who could be legit quarterbacks in next year's class. So, if you need a quarterback, you can definitely get one next year. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm with you, and kind of closing out, man. I'm with you on Caleb Williams. I mean, he hasn't played one down. So I mean, I know we're gonna get into the rest of the list, man, but they have Caleb Williams in front of people like Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, hate him or love him, Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields. I mean, you got guys who've been in the league, and this guy hasn't played one down. So I don't, the NFL is not the only ones guilty for that. The NBA is so bad for the list, man, because they have like this all-star scope type deal. Like they put guys who are all-stars, even though they might have been hurt, kind of higher on the list. And it's kind of like the NFL with rookies. He has no business being in the top 20. I'm sorry. I mean, Caleb Williams, I think he eventually could be a top 20 quarterback, probably sooner than later. But right now, without playing one down in a regular season game, I can't have him at 20. I'm sorry. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I'm willing to give him 20 because you mentioned Russell Wilson, Daniel Jones. Of course, we've got Derek Carr at 22.
Yeah.
Um, so it's probably fair for Derek Carr at this point in his career. Maybe even fair for Russell Wilson. I mean, just a couple of years ago, I've been like, there's no way Russell Wilson has fallen that far, but he has. He
Yeah.
really has. I would probably disagree with Deshaun Watson, though, because I think it's all because of maybe off the field and injuries.
Yeah.
But when he's healthy, Deshaun Watson is easily, in my opinion, a top 10 quarterback. I think 24 is too low for Deshaun Watson. Justin Fields, the jury's still out for him. I just don't think that Chicago was the best place for Justin Fields.
No.
So, right now, 25 is probably fair for Justin Fields, but I don't think that was the right place for him. I think he might actually have an opportunity in Pittsburgh. I really do.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Russell Wilson is going to last the starter in Pittsburgh. I think at some point you're going to see Justin Fields in there. Maybe they're going to have something where both of the quarterbacks are on the field at one time. Who knows? Who knows what they're going to do in there? And of course, Will Levis in Tennessee. Will Levis had a pretty good season last year. I think that's pretty low, but again, it's one of those things where it's like, well, another season to kind of solidify. Can he continue to improve? Can he follow up on a pretty decent year that he had last year as quarterback? I don't know if I agree with 26. And then you got Michael Penix Jr. above Jaden Daniels. Now, okay, all right. This is the reason why I'm okay with giving you Caleb Williams at 20, so that I can argue
Yeah.
why is Jaden Daniels at 28 behind Michael Penix Jr. I think because that not Phil Simms, but Chris Simms thinks that Michael Penix Jr. is the better passer than Jaden Daniels. Michael Penix Jr. is a great passer.
Yeah.
He's a great passer, but I think in the long run, Jaden Daniels is going to be the most complete quarterback between the two, in my opinion. And yes, of course, I am rooting hard for the burgundy and gold. Of course, I am.
Oh yeah.
But Jaden Daniels at 28, I would almost bunch these guys together, honestly, if you're going to do this, because then J.J. McCarthy at 30, Bo Nix at 29.
Yeah.
I mean, he pretty much did that, right? Like, he put Caleb Williams at 20, and then down here is all the rest of the quarterbacks that pretty much gotten drafted this year, with Michael Penix, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy. And so, he put all of those guys together at 27 through 30. I don't know if J.J. McCarthy starts right away. Maybe he does. I don't think he does. Bo Nix, I don't think starts right away.
Yeah.
Michael Penix Jr. Who else is quarterback down in Greg, who else is quarterback? Come on, Greg. Kirk Cousins. Have we forgotten Greg?
It's one of those days, dog.
It's one of those days. Kirk Cousins, the mighty Kirk Cousins, who was at number, what, 12?
Oh yeah.
So Michael Penix Jr. is not starting this year, or is he? No, he's not starting.
Nah.
He's not starting this year. They can't afford to start Michael Penix Jr. this year, the Atlanta Falcons. So I don't see Michael Penix Jr. being at 27. And I don't see Jaden Daniels staying at 28. I think Jaden Daniels next year that Chris Sims or maybe Chris Sims releases another top 40 in the middle of the season, you're going to see some big shifting of this list here. But Jaden Daniels at 28, no, I mean,
Nah.
I'm a fair weather fan. No, I'm not a fair weather fan. I'm a fan no matter what weather, but I'm a fan of the Commanders. 28 is just way too low for Jaden Daniels. Um, but I do honestly I do hope that these rookie quarterbacks do well. I really do. Um, but when you go past these guys and you get into the bottom 10,
Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill, who's no one's picked him up. I mean, this guy, honestly, Ryan Tannehill was my draft pick in 2012 when we were still at, what was it, number 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were slated to pick Ryan Tannehill, and I was okay with us picking Ryan Tannehill. And I think had we picked him at that point, we could have still gotten Kirk Cousins,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think we would have been much better off. I loved that year with RG3. Loved RG3 in 2012. But in retrospect, that would have been the better pick for us. But anyway, how do you put Ryan Tannehill at 31? He doesn't even have a team. How do you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah. And they got him above Anthony Richardson. I get I don't have the problem with him Ryan being in front of Anthony Richardson. It's just Anthony Richardson being a 32. Because
Yes.
I'm with you, man. Russell Wilson, you could definitely see him kind of drop because he's not the same guy he was.
Yeah.
Definitely not the guy he was in Seattle, and I don't think he's not even the guy he was in Denver. But Derek Carr kind of is what he is at this point. I'll say this about Daniel Jones, and I know he's a New York Giant, and I hate everything New York Giants, but I don't think they did him. It's kind of the same thing as where's he at? Justin Fields. I don't think they put enough talent around him, and I think that he gets a lot of the criticism, and I think that it should be in the other areas of the team. They put a lot on Daniel Jones, and I don't think it's all his fault in New York. So and plus every time he goes to FedEx, for some reason he has like career games. So I mean, if he plays us every game of the year, he might be a Super Bowl champion. Um, let's see.
if he plays if he plays against the was it Jack Del Rio defense?
Yeah, there you go. If he plays against Jack Del Rio, man, he's a Super Bowl champion.
That's right.
I think it's going to change. I think Joe Witt's going to change that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Justin Fields the same thing. I think that he very well could be the future in Pittsburgh because I don't think they did him justice in Chicago. I think they were terrible, and then they used all those picks to make trades and solidify wide receiver core around Caleb Williams. But Justin Fields is not a scrub. Let's see, Will Levis at 26, 1 year guys. I think he's really good. He's going to be really good. Yeah, I'm with you. Michael Penix above Jaden Daniels. Come on, man. Jaden Daniels could probably go down as the best quarterback in his draft. Nothing against Caleb Williams, but he's got the perfect situation in Washington. So he is way
Yes.
too low. And
Yes.
you hit the nail on the head, Greg. Michael Penix is not going to start. Bo Nix is probably not going to start. J.J. McCarthy is not going to start. Anthony Richardson at 32, I don't agree with because, 4 games, but you see the talents there. Sam Darnold, we'll see. Bryce Young, oh man, 34. I mean, I just makes it worse for Panthers fans, man. I mean, because Bryce Young, we'll see on Bryce Young. I think
Got to get some guys around him. Got to get some guys to help him out.
well, I mean, there's a reason why they chose him number 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, so I think the talent's there. So I think they're being a little harsh on him because he has no receivers around him. I think the only one I vaguely know is Deontay Johnson, formerly of the Steelers. And it might be the number 1 receiver there next year. So it tells you all you need to know. Nothing against Deontay Johnson, but Yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, Kenny Pickett at 38. I'm not against Gardner Minshew. I thought that he was kind of a fringe starter, so I think he's better than 39. Joe Flacco a little later in his career, but still, Jameis Winston. So yeah, that's kind of I'm with you, man. I think Caleb. Yeah, you can say at 20, but then if you put Caleb at 20, then you got to have Jaden Daniels around 22, 23,
I
because
agree.
absolutely. Because I mean, to me, Jaden Daniels, if you look at the situation, I think he very well could be the best quarterback in this draft when it's all said and done. And then nothing against Caleb Williams, but if you're going to put Caleb at 20, then you got to put Jaden at 21 and 22, because you could argue that Jaden probably is better than Russell Wilson at this stage in Russell Wilson's career. And Derek Carr, you kind of say the same thing. Daniel Jones, and before we roll, yeah, Deshaun Watson. It is crazy how a couple of years. I know he had his legal issues off the field and the injuries, but he was slated to be the next great thing.
Hmm.
And to watch the fall, I'm not going to get into the whole off the field stuff, but just the injuries. You would have thought that his situation in Cleveland would have been perfect. So just to see him at 24 in 2024, to me is crazy, because
It
Deshaun
is
Watson,
crazy.
yeah, he was that next best quarterback. So yeah, I'm with you. I think they were really nice to some of the rookies. Um, and Jordan Love, yeah. So overall, I think the list is not bad, but I think a lot of people thought, yeah, they. I don't know how do I phrase this. I don't know. It's one of those days. They're prisoners in the moment. There we go. The prisoners in the moment. I mean, Jordan Love at 13 is like, come on, man. 1 year. So I'm with you. There's some misses, but I think there's a lot more hits than misses. So not bad
Now,
overall.
what is the glaring thing, the glaring name that you see missing from this top 40 list?
Hmm.
Think about it.
Oh, Sam, where's Sam at?
Well, that's good, but that actually wasn't the name I was thinking of.
My bad.
But yeah,
Um,
that's a good point. Where's Sam out? Because, you do have some what I consider backup quarterbacks in
yeah,
here. Um, and Sam, I thought, had at least a half of a pretty good, solid year. And then, the second half of the year, he kind of fell off.
yeah.
But if we're going to include rookies who haven't thrown one pass in the NFL yet, where's Drake May? Why is Drake May
Wow,
not on
you are
this
not
list?
lying. I totally, yeah. I mean, Drake May, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna put every other rookie on there, you got to put Drake May in there, who was the second quarterback or the third quarterback
Ha-
off the board.
has he
So
had that bad of an off season so far? Because I have heard some pretty harsh things coming out of New England. About Drake May. He's got a lot to learn. He's kind of struggled a little bit. Um, and me personally, I think that from the get go, it's going to be Jacoby Brissett that's going to start, and it should be. I think Jacoby Brissett has earned the right to start.
yeah,
He's not the future for the Patriots, but I think he's earned the right to start at least a couple of seasons. And I think Drake May will be ready in a couple of seasons and will be a fantastic quarterback, but he's not ready to start. But I just thought it was interesting because
yeah,
if you are going to put guys like Kenny Pickett, and I know he's played some, but Kenny Pickett, Jarrett Steedham, um, but then again, guys like J.J. McCarthy, Jay Daniels, Bo Nix, and Caleb Williams, guys who haven't thrown any passes in the NFL, you might as well have thrown Drake May in there. So that
yeah.
really shows you how much that people think about Drake May overall. So if we had went and drafted Drake May, people probably would have looked at us and been like, "What are you doing?" Like,
Yeah, but I'll say this,
you know,
man. New England needs to chill out, and this is why nobody wants to play quarterback in New England. They still have the Tom Brady goggles on, so they're kind of treating everybody like putting their standard up there with Tom Brady, and then you shouldn't do that. Like we knew coming out of the draft that he was a guy who needed to be developed, and so if they had any prospects of starting him out right or putting him up there, give him the crown out of the gate. They're wrong for that. I don't think that he's that bad. Now I get it. He's had his struggles. Look, there's a lot of guys in the league that had a struggle. People forget the wide receiver in Cincinnati who was dropping balls in preseason, and now he's a top 5 receiver. So, I don't agree with them being so critical of Drake May, in my opinion. Like now, obviously, I'm glad we got Jaden. You know what I mean? I think that Jaden right now is the better prospect, but Drake May, I don't think he's going to be as bad as advertised. I think that give him time to develop. I mean, look, who's the receivers in New England? Can anybody tell me a receiver out of New England outside of Juju Schuster, Smith Schuster? I mean, I don't even know who. I mean, I think him and um, Osborne. Those are the only 2 guys I really know that are receivers from New England. You gave them scraps to throw to, like So I think they need to kind of chill out, man, because you know confidence is so key in a young player. And when if we see these comments, that Drake sees these comments, and the kind of this trash from year one that when he hasn't even thrown a pass in the regular season, and kind of give him time to develop because we both said it that if the Commanders went ahead and drafted him, he's the guy that's going to have to sit for a year or two. He has to be developed, but the intangibles are there. So I mean, yeah, I don't agree with a lot of them criticizing Drake, man. I mean, he's a young guy who hasn't played it down. I mean, if I'm going to bet on it, Brissett is going to be the starter, and he should be. Let Drake sit, let him understand the system, let him study, and have him be a student. As far as film, man. But yeah, I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way how they've been so critical with the guy, man. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Justin Fields. Look, Justin Fields ain't trash. And anybody who thinks they gave him all the opportunities to succeed in Chicago, then we need to check your cup or maybe give you a drug test because I mean, there's no way they gave him the worst situation to play with in Chicago. So I mean, Justin Fields is another guy that I'm with you. I think that once he gets the reins in Pittsburgh, man, I think he's going to do well. So yeah, Drake May is just unfortunate because I think they're trying to see where he's at if he can start, and he ain't ready. He ain't ready for all that. But there's a reason why he was the second or the third best quarterback prospect in the draft, in my opinion. So I think he's going to be all right.
Yeah, with with the Patriots, honestly, it really reminds me of a lot of what happened with the Redskins
Yeah,
after they were so good for so long. Joe Gibbs kept the team together, played really well, didn't have very many losing seasons. Actually, I think they only had maybe like one losing season under him. Didn't have very many seasons where they actually missed the playoffs. So, it was always at least a playoff team, if not a Super Bowl contending team for his, 10 years, 10, 11 years that he was with the Redskins. And then when he stepped down, of course, it's kind of similar that what the Patriots may experience. Just to for you Patriots fans, if you happen to come across this podcast for some reason because you're bored, I guess, and you want to check out the Commanders, which you're just fine doing that. All you guys are always welcome. But now that Bill Belichick is gone, Brady is gone, basically the whole dynasty is gone, right?
yeah,
And so I've seen this happen where you've had a good team, you had all of these players that you have seen play throughout the years, and then suddenly they're gone. No
yeah,
more Art Monk or Gary Clark or Ricky Sanders and Joe Jacoby's and guys like that. And so you start getting these young guys in here, and you don't have much for them to throw to. For us, back then, the modern style of free agency started up, and so people were crazy back then with free agency. That's the reason why you got. Later on, it's the reason why we wound up getting guys like Bruce Smith and Deion Sanders and guys like that. But even during the mid '90s, I thought Charlie Casserly did a pretty decent job of trying to pull that team back together. Bringing in guys like, oh gosh, I knew that my mind was going to blow just as soon as that I was going to mention his name, Henry Ellard,
yeah,
who longtime Ram. He was really good for us with the Redskins. That was toward the end of his career, and
Yeah,
he played really well for us. It was a great target for our young quarterbacks that we had, and but just all through those years, we never could really rekindle the glory that we had, with Joe Gibbs, and so. We probably could have gotten that back a lot sooner. Of course, everyone knows the whole story of our 20 plus years under Dan Snyder. But
oh
um, the overall point is when you get a young guy like Drake May, you've got to, first of all, you got to make sure that you build up your offensive line,
yep,
that you have a great center who can help him with call protections and things like that to make him feel very comfortable. Get him some targets. Gets him, he needs some weapons. A big old tight end, a couple of tall wide receivers. He needs guys like that. It's going to take him a while,
yeah,
but like you said, you can't just put table scraps out there and expect him to put the team on the shoulders. And neither with Jacoby Brissett either. I think Jacoby Brissett is probably one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league, and he's going to get his chance to start this year, in my
yeah,
opinion. But I think he's going to have a rough season unless the Patriots are able to help rebuild that offense. Defense actually wasn't that terrible last year, from
yeah,
what I saw, but the offense is what they really need. So yeah, I just sorry folks to get off that tangent. It was just could not believe that Drake May was not in Chris Sims' top 40 quarterback countdown. So anyway, folks, don't take Chris Sims' top 40 literally, because you know what, all of that's going to change once the season starts. You're going to see players, unfortunately, you're going to see probably some players get hurt. You're going to see some players not
yeah,
have that great of a season. You're going to see other players really have good seasons. You may see some players, not even play at all,
yeah,
whatever. So I want to see, I hope that Chris Sims comes out with a top 40 countdown at the end of the season.
yeah.
So you see what, and then we'll have a video to compare this from what, we will see at the end of the season. So there you go, folks. Um, but anyway, folks, that's pretty much all with this video. We're going to go ahead and call it a day on this, but we will try to be back to kind of cover some of the mini camp this
Yep.
week. And after that, folks, we're going to, it's kind of night time for the NFL for a few weeks until training camp. But I tell you, training camp is just around the corner. But I don't want to wish our summer away just yet. I want to enjoy summer, but it's coming. So we're going to try to stay here and give you some content the best we can. I think what Brandon and I will probably do, we'll probably sit back and we'll probably have some videos reminiscing. Maybe we'll even have some. Well, we don't usually debate, but maybe we'll have some spirited conversations about who we thought was the better quarterbacks during the eras of our younger years when we were first growing up watching our favorite team play. So that'd be kind of exciting to watch. So if you want to watch that, stay tuned. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel. And with that said, Brandon, thank you for joining us. And we will see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.